Hey, I'm Bill DeYoung, and this is the Catalyst Sessions once again. Please join me in welcoming the great blues guitar player, Damon Fowler from Hillsborough County, Florida. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Bill, how you doing, man?
You're in Fowler's garage there. I recognize it.
I sure am. Been spending a lot of time in Fowler's garage lately.
So you've recently, like a lot of musicians, really, you started gigging again, right?
Yeah,
A little bit.
I did. Yep.
I mean,
I basically most of the gigs I've done, I haven't done a lot of gigs. I had a great summer lined up, and I had a really awesome blues fest. Like the day they pulled the cord. Actually, my birthday was March 16th, and yeah, and then like maybe 3 days later, they just completely pulled it everywhere, and so we were like we were sad, but it is what it is. I'd rather be safe than sorry. And
brilliant summer of shows lined up is what you mean?
oh man, I had from basically May to October, I was going the Northeast, the West Coast, the Midwest. We were going to we had an offer to go headline a blues festival in Poland. I was supposed to go to Vegas. It was a whole bunch. I was like, man, this is gonna be the best year ever. But
Oh,
it's actually, you know what? To be honest, being home, I had a kid. Me and my wife gave birth in June to our third child, and
sweet.
um,
Great.
and it's really truly been a blessing. And being in Fowler's garage when all this went down, I started doing a live stream immediately.
Yeah.
And it the 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 people's support, sometimes it was PayPal or Venmo, sometimes it was just encouraging words, you know man, just the whole overall community of music fans and stuff came together and really supported us, and it's still getting us through. I still do. And one thing, I know we haven't talked too much yet, and I'm just pouring it all out, but one thing I think that this has taught everyone, especially the older crowd, like the blues crowd,
Yeah.
which is a little bit older of a crowd. I think that once everyone got stuck at home, I think everyone became more comfortable with technology and learning how to live stream and learning how to do Zoom meetings and learning how to be part of all this. So I think it's, at the end of the day, it's opened up a different side for the artist, you know.
I hear a lot of that. I mean, I could go as far as telling you, I don't know about your experiences with Zoom, but the first versions of the Catalyst sessions we did were all pretty terrible because I didn't know what I was pushing all the wrong buttons. We used to,
Right.
it was just a disaster. I mean, were the early live streaming, I mean, if you look at those now and go, man, I didn't know anything about lighting or anything.
Well, all right. So like 6 years ago, 8 years ago, my wife and I lived in Bradenton Beach. Before we had children, we lived on Bradenton Beach, and we had a little apartment out there, and it was fantastic. And I had this Monday night gig, and it was at Aces on Cortez, and it was called Sugar Shack Monday. And I would bring in bands that would be touring. We would pay them a couple of $100, give them a hotel room from the club, and I would do some music. I would do a set. They would do a set. And we had a live stream that we were trying to put out. So we had cameras and a microphone and stuff that was pretty much outdated technology now. But so the the first live stream we tried, we just set all that stuff up, and we're like, I bet we can get it to work. And it was awful.
Fowler's Garage is cool though. And, you sometimes you'd have friends on and stuff, but how many of those would you say you did, and are you still doing them?
Yeah, I still do them. I've been going pretty much live at least maybe twice a month. I've been going on Saturdays at 4:20 to 5:20 on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
And oh man, I've done at least one a week since March.
Tell me about these gig stories that you do. Those are fascinating. Where did that
Well, that's actually been a whole lot of fun, kept me busy, and it's taught me a lot about Zoom.
You're Johnny Carson, man. You're interviewing people.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call myself a great interviewer, but what I was looking for is like, I run across a lot of musicians, and a lot of people, I believe, find it interesting. They always want to know kind of like what goes on the road,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and what's it like. And also, some of the best times I've ever had has been sitting around other musicians that are friends and just telling stories. That's just one of the best parts about it to me. And so I was like, man, during this time I have all this free time, so I started contacting people I know, my friends and stuff, and just, our main goal is to get like a positive, uplifting story or a funny story,
Yeah.
and just, have a little one from the road, or just about any gig. And a lot of times people can relate with them because, I interview some musicians. Some of the guys have been on giant stages touring the world. Some guys are playing at your local tavern.
Yeah.
This is the spectrum of my friends, and it's kind of a similar experience for everyone.
Well, knowing musicians as I vaguely do, you probably have to, it's not exactly like sitting around in the green room with your buds, because you got to keep the language down and the,
Yeah. Well, I told them I don't make it for kids. When you fill out the YouTube thing and you're filling it all out, they're like, "Is this made for kids?" And I say, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because some of the gig stories are wholesome and fun. Some are about people recognizing how much music means to other people in their life and the connection there. Some of the stories are about getting ripped off. Some of them are like, man, Albert Castiglia tells a really awesome story. But there's some curse words, and but it's relevant to the story. It's not like he's just vulgarly blasting them out. He's just repeating what someone else said to him.
These are on YouTube now. Are they on like your
Yeah.
Facebook page or your website too?
Yeah, well, they're on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's another thing. We're trying to get our YouTube channel up and running. If you can get like 1,000 subscribers, and then you can get 4,000 hours of watch time, then YouTube starts paying you ad revenue.
I'll have to remember that.
Yeah, that's a lot of people now have YouTube channels, and they're trying to monetize their YouTube channel. And I mean, I don't expect it to be like,
man, that's fantastic. It's like you said, people are learning stuff.
Yeah, I've learned a whole lot during this.
For a minute, talking about the lifestyle. So, are you from Tampa? Are you from Brandon? Where's like the Damon hometown at?
I live in Brandon right now, but I grew up in Tampa.
Yeah.
In Palm River. I don't even know where that is.
No, I don't, but I'm sure it's great.
It's south on 41, south of State Road 60, right there.
Yeah.
And there's a river there you go over before you get to like Ruskin and Gibsonton and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, my daughter lives over around that area now.
Yeah. So that's basically, I grew up in Palm River, and then I turned 18. I moved out, man. I lived all over, Tampa, Bradenton, stuff like that. My wife and I moved. We were living on Anna Maria for 4 or 5 years before we started having kids, but we started having kids, and I started going on the road. And so, her family lives in Lakeland, so we moved to Lakeland, Florida for about 4 or 5 years. And then we moved back. Now I live in Brandon.
Well, I think that there's a story you told in a couple of interviews about. I think your uncle was in a country band, and talk to me about Sundays at your grandparents' house. Wasn't it Sundays?
Yeah. Well, all right. So basically, my grandparents owned. Say what?
Kind of just strap a guitar on in the backyard and start wailing, right?
It was kind of like that. Yeah. I was a little kid. My mom and I lived at my grandparents' house. Mm-hmm. And my grandparents owned a septic tank business. It was called Fowler Septic Tank. Mm-hmm. And they had 3 sons that worked for them, and then my mom worked in the office. And so on Sundays, they had a pool and a deck and all that stuff at their house, and like a big yard and stuff. So on Sundays, my grandparents would throw these barbecues like every Sunday. The family would come over. They'd cook hot dogs and hamburgers and stuff, and everybody would just kind of pass the guitar around.
Yeah.
And then it turned into, well, my oldest uncle was in a country band, so he would start setting up like a little PA system. And then eventually we had like a little deck that was kind of like a little stage with a drum riser built, and
Oh, my
yeah, we just, and my cousin Aaron played drums. He's, I was like 12, he was like 10 or 11, he's playing drums, I'm playing guitar. And my uncle's friends would come over from the country band. It was a band called Possum Bennett and the Southern Express Band.
There you go.
And they played in 6 Mile Creek at a place called the 18 Wheeler and also the East Side Lounge. If anybody out there knows that,
Cool.
Strong, 6 Mile Creek. And so those musicians would come over and jam. And, as little kids, we were like 10 and 12 years old. And it was just our family. So it really felt like that's what you do on Sundays. Everybody, it's,
You were a Guns N' Roses Pearl Jam kid though, right? And
I was. Yeah. I'm obviously, I was born in 79.
okay.
And so the 80s, I was a little kid in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I loved Guns N' Roses like at 10 years old, but I'm living at my grandma's house, you know what I mean? So you can't like crank up Guns N' Roses, you can, but you get yelled at.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and so they listen to a lot of country music and stuff, know? And so I don't know, by the time I started playing when I was about 10 and I ended up going, I had to go to private school. And so I ended up, I don't know, getting more into music and more kind of introverting, and learning more about guitar. And I was taking lessons and stuff. And at that time, and probably like 92, I don't know, maybe 92 or 93, Pearl Jam, Nirvana. I remember when like music changed, like rock radio, there was like Warrant, and they put out that record Cherry Pie, right? And it's very hair rock and rocking just 80s glam, not glam, but 80s rock, big drum sounds and that sound. And I remember when Smells Like Teen Spirit, the Nevermind album came out, and it was so different. And that was the end of 7th grade for me. And then by the time 8th grade came around, Pearl Jam and Nirvana and all that stuff were the biggest, And so at like, 13, 14 years old, they were cool, man. They played Stratocasters and Les Paul, especially Pearl Jam. They had like Marshall stacks and stuff. I was like, oh, that's good,
So where's the what do they say in the magazines? The blues bug. When did that bite? I mean, you took
it actually bit me before that.
Yeah.
Because my uncle was in the country band. And so my cousin and I would go sit in with the band. And we would, on Sundays, either at our house or like, there'd be like a barbecue or picnic there. Our parents wouldn't take us to the bar, but there'd be outside gigs by the river or something you take the kids down to. Yeah. And so we would go sit in with the band and we would play songs like Hey Good Looking and just like standard country songs, classic country. And we also, the first blues song we would do and that I ever got into was Steamroller Blues by James Taylor.
A churn and earn, a burning funk.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the form of it, the 12-bar form. It really made sense to me. But also I love the lyrics, man, just the innuendo and it's just, there's something about it. James Taylor's fantastic. I mean, he's hard to beat, but
it's a cool tune. Yeah, boy, I remember that one. Yeah.
So I don't know. I was probably about 11 or 12 when I first got into blues, and that's when for Christmas that year I got a CD player and I got a BB King CD. Man, before then I had a cassette player, and one of my uncle's friends in the band just gave me a cassette, and on one side it had a couple of BB King songs. It had like half an album of John Lee Hooker. Yeah. And on the other side it was like piano, like Pine Top Perkins style piano, instrumental.
Why did that grab you though? I mean, there's a seismic shift in your whole musical direction here. I mean, it's cool.
I don't know. Just, I just really appreciate it. I just like, it appealed to me. I heard it and I liked it,
Were you just playing acoustic guitar then? Or did you?
Yeah. I played acoustic guitar for the first few years of my life.
Yeah.
And then, I think I was like 12 or 13. I got a Fender Stratocaster, but
Mm.
it was really just kind of, my uncle's the one that showed, my oldest uncle, his name was Bobby. He was the one that basically showed me how to play chords and my first scales and stuff, showed me the first few songs and stuff,
Wow. You before you threw yourself into that life, I think I started saying this before. I'm gonna be, you ended up, you're a musician. I'm doing this. What did you want to be? I mean, I can't.
I started thinking about music so early.
What?
I started thinking about music so early, and so at like 12, like 14 years old, I was already like, well, man, I want to be in a band.
So that was it. Yeah.
That was it. Like, my grandparents owned a septic tank company, so I would hang out and, watch the men work, and be like, well, that looks awful. This looks so hard, and I'm not cut out for this.
Yeah, but I was thinking the same thing. It's like, I'm not sure I want to follow in their footsteps.
Yeah.
Do that.
I was really lucky, man. My mom and my grandparents and my stepdad and all my uncles, my whole family have been super supportive, and they never told me no. They were always really supportive of me.
That's very cool. So you were gigging around. Did I read this right? When you were like 15, 16, you had bands.
Yeah.
Playing.
Yeah. I was, my first paying gig I ever had was at a place on Fletcher Avenue, and I was 15.
Wow.
And it was at a place called Mustang Sally's, ironically enough. And we played there for 2 nights. And the only people that came the first night were our parents and a homeless dude. The next night I get there and the owner comes up to me, man. I'm like this little skinny, scared kid. And he comes up to me, he goes, hey kid, remember that homeless dude that was here last night? I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, he killed himself out in the alley afterwards. And I was just like, oh no,
But the blues, Damon. Jesus. There's a gig story for you right there.
Yeah, it was a wild one, man. And I remember I think we got paid $40 a piece for that gig.
Wow. Did you play the second night even though your fan was gone?
Yeah, we went back in and played again. To our parents. We played to our parents again,
What was Butch like? What was Butch Strux like?
Man, Butch was awesome.
Yeah.
Butch became a friend.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect with Butch, man. Excuse me, let me drink this real quick.
Yeah.
I got the gig because when I was living on Anna Maria and I had a small baby, my wife and I.
Yeah.
I was playing, when I wasn't on the road, you can go and we would just go do beach gigs under weird names, under pseudonyms. And so Barry Oakley Jr.
Yeah.
His father was the original bass player in the Allman Brothers. Barry Oakley Jr. is now in the Allman Betts band. Mm. And he and I became friends. We both had small children at the time. We lived close to the beach. We were musicians. We just would run into each other and just became friends. And so we started a band called Baby Daddy. And we had a drummer named Garrett Dawson. Garrett lives down in Sarasota. And he also was about to have a baby, or he just had a small baby. So, I mean, we're all like, man, we need a Wednesday night gig, dude, And so we started a band called Baby Daddy. And it was like, and the poster was 3 little baby bodies with our heads on it. And and we would hang it out at the beach. It was really funny, and it was a fun band. And so that's how I knew Barry. Barry was playing. Butch decided to put together the Freight Train band. Yeah. And so Barry was doing the gig, and they were trying out guitar players. They'd done a few one-off gigs down in Fort Lauderdale or at Boca at the Funky Biscuit because Butch lived right around the corner.
Yeah.
So they played one night with these guys, and Butch was brutally honest. You know what I mean? Like, he was no holds barred, man. No, not hiding anything. So the guys showed up, and they treated it kind of like an Allman Brothers tribute, right? And Butch didn't want that.
Yeah.
he knew that there was going to be some Allman Brothers songs that you had to play, and there's certain parts that you gotta nail. But when it's your solo, you don't have to play an exact note like Fillmore East. He'd prefer it if you kind of took it somewhere else and made it a piece of music for the night, you know.
From Warren Haynes and Derek Trucks and everybody else who's played in configurations of that group. Yeah, this is your.
You know, I mean, you recognize that, you know, and that's what Warren does, and that's what Derek does. There's flags and there's points in the road of the solo to where, of course, you're going to need that, but there's okay to improvise around it and get a little weird, you know, and try things. And so, you know, he was using these guitar players that he just didn't feel were doing that. And so he was at the end of the night, man, he was griping. And so Barry was just like, hey, man, if you want to try a guitar player, my friend Damon knows all the stuff.
Mhm.
And he lives in Florida, and he's really good. And about that time, the owner of the club was walking by, and I play there at the club with my trio.
Yeah.
And so he was like, yeah, I know Damon. He'd do a good job, man. He's responsible, you know, fairly responsible.
Oh,
And
right.
so about a week later, man, Butch's manager calls me and basically said, hey, look, show up. We're playing in Bradenton. Show up at noon. We'll sound check you. And then be prepared to play that night at 9:30.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. And so we got to the sound check, and, you know, Butch was like 70 something.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we go to sound check all these songs, a lot of times at sound check, you put like 50% effort, you know, especially the drums. It's hard to play drums all night. You know, it's physical, you know, especially for an older guy.
Yeah.
And so when we sound check, man, we play like an hour and a half set, full steam, like 100% pounding. And so then Butch was just like, all right, let's go have lunch and come back, see you tonight, you know. And so that was it. That's how I got the gig. And I played with him. We used my van a lot on tour, so there'd be two vehicles, you know, people that smoke cigarettes, people that don't. I don't smoke cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Butch would ride with me. And, you know, so he told me a ton of great stories, and just hanging out with him was fantastic.
And you played with Dickie for a while too, and
I did.
And cool.
That was great. You know, I didn't, you know, I don't know Dickie as well as I got to know Butch, you know. I mean, Dickie's been nothing but kind to me, and he's really awesome and cool. We did probably, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 shows that summer. And, you know, Dickie's fantastic, actually. The tour was great. When we played in Macon, Georgia with Dickie Betts, it felt like we were at the Super Bowl or something. You know, I mean, they're like, we got to the hotel at like 9 a.m. We drove on the bus from Sarasota, and like there were people partying in the parking lot a day before at 9 a.m. in the hotel parking lot, you know.
Well, I would tend to agree with you. I mean, you said something where, you know, Dwayne is Dwayne, and you know, he's revered, and Dwayne was unbelievable, but Dickie's guitar playing is a big part of what made the Allmans great.
Oh man, well, man, Dickie wrote hits.
Yeah. Well,
and the thing about Dickie is he I believe he is the one that invented. He didn't invent it, but it was his idea to do the dueling melody weaving guitar lines.
Mhm.
And it's based off of like Western swing music. It's based off like Bob Wills with the twin fiddles, and you hear those fiddles, and their melody kind of does like that, you know, and when they play together.
Very cool. You are well, as people are watching this, you're actually on stage at the Big Catch at Salt Creek.
That's right.
Because we'll tell everybody that we recorded this a little bit earlier, and you're doing a solo there tonight.
Yeah, you know, Pete Merrigan asked me to come down and play, and it's Tuesday night, man. I'm like, I'll come out and play. So I don't know what's gonna happen. I talked to Pete a little earlier. I'm gonna try out a couple of new songs tonight, so I'm gonna take my acoustic. I'm gonna play probably about 30 minutes acoustic, and then I'll probably jam with the band some. I'm gonna bring a slide guitar, and, you know, probably play some blues or something with them.
So
You
as
know,
soon as you're done watching this, head on over there.
that's right. As soon as you're done, we'll be finishing up.
And then the trip in what, Fort Pierce this weekend?
Yeah, we're doing the Pierced Cider Works in Fort Pierce. I've never been there, but I've heard it's really awesome. I have a lot of friends that have played there, so it's really cool. It's good, socially distanced gig.
I lived down there
Yeah.
in Stuart for a couple of years, God, ages ago, but it's a cool town, definitely. Hey, man, you feel like playing something for us? You got
Yeah, sure. I can play something.
We
See, I'm gonna back this up.
5-6 minutes left if you want to like roll something.
Sure.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Let's see. I got a capo somewhere. Oh, there it is. Oh.
And I got about 6 capos in my house, and I can never find one. I don't
Story
know.
of my life.
Yeah,
Guitar picks, capos, tuners.
right.
I play good for a living. I play guitar. I can't find a tuner like 3 nights a week. Thank God for responsible bass players.
Well, that's debatable, but okay.
Yeah,
The camera down a little bit so we can see more
yeah.
shot of the ceiling here. You know,
Sure.
that's cool. That's cool. Yeah.
All right. All right, in tune enough. All right, so this is going to be on my new record. The new record comes out in February. It's going to be on Landslide Records.
Cool.
And I debuted this song when I was opening for George Thorogood. I was on tour with him playing acoustic guitar, and you get like 30 minutes a night, right? So I cherry picked my set, and I took out one of my best songs, and I put this one in because it was the only place it would fit. Next morning, I get a phone call from George's manager, and I was like, "Oh no, I changed the set." And it wasn't that. He said George was on the side of the stage, and he loved the tune,
Yeah.
and he liked it so much that he wanted me to come into his dressing room the next day before sound check and play it for him. He wanted me to write out all the lyrics for him,
Wow.
and then show up and play it for him. So I did. And he told me to keep working on it. So here we go.
And what is he? This is good. Yeah, that's cool.
I've been low, I've been high. Sometimes I fall, sometimes I fly. I told the truth and I told a lie. I've been low, I've been high. Sometimes I hide, sometimes I seek. Sometimes I'm lucky, sometimes I'm weak. There's a time to laugh, there's a time to cry. I've been low, I've been high. I know how to float, and I know how to sink. I like to run, but I love to sleep. My motor's flooded, but my tank is dry. I've been low, I've been high. I've been low, and I've been high.
I look for answers, and I wonder why. One day I'm funny, the next day I'm shy. You got to let it out, that's what's inside. I've been low, I've been high. I've been low, and I've been high. I've been low, baby, and I've been high. I've been low, well, and I've been high.
There it is, man. Damon Fowler, thanks for joining us today, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
We'll see you out on the road one of these days, man.
I hope so.